Rico. Estoy muy entusiasmado, estoy hoy con una de las mejores bodegas de Italia, realmente una bodega que llevo años apreciando. Estoy en el nuevo almacén del vino de Fernández, que es una belleza aquí en el área de Winebow, deben venir. Estamos hoy haciendo una entrevista con un representante de la famosísima distribuidora mundial Winebow, y la división que se encarga de los vinos italianos es Leonardo Locaccio Selections. Hoy vamos a probar realmente tres joyas de la viticultura italiana. Y pues vamos directo a la entrevista. Marcelo, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
We are very fortunate today. We have three of the best wines of all of Italy, not only Tuscany. I've been a customer and a fan of these wines for a number of years. I'm very good friends with the people here at Almacén del Vino. I've done more than 30 interviews with them in the past couple of years. What can you tell us about Tua Rita?
Well, Tua Rita is an icon winery of Italy in Tuscany. We are located in Maremma, south of Bulgaria, and this one is really one of the first garagist winery in Italy. Rita Tua, the owner lady, and her husband Virgil, they started this winery in 1984 after they retired. They started with 35 acres of land, and in the several years they purchased, and now they have 55 acres. And the first vintage was in '92, and when they started, they had some Cabernet Merlot planting in the area, and they started this for fun. And in 2000, they really became famous all over the world because Robert Parker gave them to the Redigaffi wine that we will taste later.
I think it was the first Super Tuscan to get the perfect score,
yes,
right?
100 points from Robert Parker. Since then, they became famous all over the world.
Yeah. And I was talking to you off camera, and you were telling me that you've been with Fernández for 20 years now.
Correct.
So that's to our advantage. We're very lucky to have such a brilliant portfolio, access to it here in Puerto Rico. We're a small island, but we get the best wines from all over the world. So what have you brought for us today? What are we trying?
So I brought you the three icon wine from this winery. The first one is the Giusto di Notte. It was the very first wine that they made. It's a blend mostly with Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Syrah, and it's a wine that's unfiltered, aged in New French oak for 18 months, and then 1 year in the bottle. It's one of the very initial 13 Super Tuscan of Bulgaria.
Well, so let's start with that one.
Absolutely.
So this is the Giusto. Salud. Cheers.
Salud.
Thank you.
That's it. Cheers.
Cheers. And it's I love the color.
Yes.
It's not dark deep, but rather brilliant. It sort of has its own natural light.
Correct.
I love the cherry on the side, but the nose is explosive. I hold the glass about 10 centimeters from my face, but then I get this just amazing mixture of herbs. What I love about Italian wines is that they're very elegant from the get-go. It's not this whack of fruit, but rather this sort of very nuanced wine.
You're absolutely right. This is a 2016 vintage. It was a outstanding vintage in Italy. It's the 15 was about power. The 16 was all about elegance. And this wine, as you mentioned, the first thing when you taste an Italian wines, you really smell Italy in the glass. So I close my eyes and I smell Italian leather, new leather. I smell herbal notes, sage, rosemary, typical of Tuscany. And this one is really, well balanced, like you were mentioning. There is elegance, there is power, there is this beautiful bouquet. It is what you will expect with everybody.
It's silky. It's very silky because the tannins, even though it's a young wine, and I'm sure this will age beautifully, it's accessible. Right now you can drink it, you can enjoy it. It'll last for 2-3 decades. Absolutely. But it's so silky and it's mouth coating, but it doesn't feel heavy.
Absolutely. As we say in Italy, setoso, very silky.
Absolutely. And it's agile, because there are certain wines, I don't want to give a bad spiel to Napa or other parts of the world, but they're young and they have 14 point something alcohol, and they're this like Weight Watchers chocolate shake, right?
Correct.
They're a meal in and on themselves. This is amazing.
Well, consider Italian wines are wines that need to be enjoyed with food. Italian wine, it is part of the meal. So when you drink wine, it's like you're having a meal already. So it always needs to be.
I love the acidity. The acidity of this would, I always ask my guests here, what would you pair this with? Let's say that you know, your wife comes home and she says, Marcello, I brought a bottle of Justo. What would you pair it with?
Perfect. Well, one of my classic pair for this wine is for sure a beautiful bistecca alla fiorentina, T-bone steak with some roasted potato with rosemary, garlic, simple, traditional. You can mess the plate if you get buy a good piece of meat, and it's the perfect match.
It is. Let's go to the second wine.
Absolutely.
What can you tell us about the world famous, iconic, brilliant Redigaffi?
So this is a Redigaffi. This is iconic 100% Merlot, pure Merlot. As you know, some of the best wine in the world with the Petrus, many other wines we do the Merlot. This wine, as Robert Parker tasted, he mentioned to them that they were not going to bottle this wine, and Robert Parker told them, this is your best wine in the winery, you should bottle this wine for sure. 100% Merlot, this is a 2013 vintage. This wine, as you can see the color, you see the color, you see some age on.
The nose, well obviously the color of all the wines is brilliant, it looks clean. It's a very clean looking wine, but the nose here it's like, you know, a combination of cassis, pencil shaving, you get a little bit of
graphite,
that dust, graphite, iron,
cherry,
and then you get that sort of Italian je ne sais quoi, which is like the herbs, like the forest floor.
Sottobosco, that's what we call sottobosco, absolutely right.
I think the Americans call it underbrush or forest floor.
Italians are much more romantic.
Sí, it's sottobosco for sure. But the nose here is unbelievable. I mean, this is a perfect wine.
Few things about this wine, production about this wine. We are talking about here, the Redigaffi is a little bit around 10,000 bottles a year. You know, take it less than a year, depending on the harvest. So very unique, very limited. Again, this is one of the most difficult wine from Italy to get your hands on, and you guys are lucky to have some.
Yeah, we are definitely lucky. I mean, Almacén del Vino and Fernández allow us as consumers to get access to the best bottles in the world and at very reasonable prices. Because you know, you go to certain parts in the world and the markup is ridiculous. You'll probably get this wine here for the same price that you buy it in, you know, the best stores in terms of quality and price quality ratio. This wine is unbelievable. I tend not to rate wines because I'm not a sommelier or an expert. I'm a consumer. I guess a consumer is the most important player of them all.
Absolutely.
And this is probably the best wine I've had this year.
It's
unbelievable.
Thank you so much. 2013,
the vintage of my son. He was born in 2013.
Oh,
this wine will last forever.
Yes, we did. I was lucky enough to do a vertical tasting of this wine not too long ago. We went all the way back since the first vintage in 2000, and it was outstanding. You know, very different. Some vintage were a little bit more warmer. Some vintage a little bit more cool and elegant. But overall, an outstanding wine. Really with the balance and finesse. I love this wine. You know, really to be on the cellar for many years.
I love the. Merlot tends to be a plushy, sort of fat grape. The Cabernet is like the spine, the architecture, the bone, the bone to the Merlot. But the Merlot here is very sort of you know, you guys in Italy are magnificent tailors. You guys make the best suits, the best shoes, and this fits. It fits the palate, it coats the palate. And there's nothing out of place. It's like when you walk into a room and everything is where it needs to be.
Absolutely, I agree with you. We usually, we always talk about wine as an orchestra, symphony, in our music. So when you have everything balanced, it's like in a beautiful concert. Yeah. There's no one instrument that is, has a little pick or you can, stand out. Same thing in this wine. Alcohol, the acidity, the minerality, the bouquet, the nose, everything goes together in a beautiful.
Certain wines smell so good that you sometimes feel sad that you have to drink them. You could smell them.
I tell people you can wear this one.
Yeah. Let's go to the last one. The
Absolutely. So Per Sempre is a beautiful wine. So Per Sempre, what happened? Unfortunately, Rita's husband, Vigil, he passed away in 8-9 years ago, and Syrah was his favorite varietal. So Rita and the family, in honor to Vigil, they decided to make a wine.
A tribute.
Yes, called Per Sempre Syrah.
What was his name?
Vigil. And this one is the Syrah Per Sempre, meaning for always your Syrah.
Forever.
And this one is very limited because they only make 2,000 bottles.
Yeah,
a
you
year.
were telling me.
It's
Is this a new product? Like, did these two come first and then the
Yes, the Giusto was the first wine of the winery. The Redigaffi started with the 99 vintage, and then the Syrah started a few years after. So it's 100% Syrah.
Let's go to the nose here. Italian Syrah, so elegant.
Well, again, with the color, we go a little bit back to the Giusto, a little bit more ruby, a little bit more live, a little bit more bright. On the nose, you get the spice of the Syrah, but this Syrah is not the the power.
No, it isn't.
It isn't. No. You can find in Australia, or
some parts in the United States as well.
Yes, correct.
Syrahs can be very, very big, overtone, overblown, overbearing. This Syrah is restrained, and again, we go back to the Italian way of doing things, where power and finesse are very much intertwined. There's no one overpowering the other. I mean, I love the Per Sempre. The Giusto is fantastic, but you can tell why the Redigaffi is probably the crown jewel, right? It's amazing. What would you pair there? I didn't ask you. Sure. What would you pair the Redigaffi? Because Redigaffi is obviously a high-end wine. It's not a it's a wine that will likely cost you a couple $100. But what would you pair it with?
Well, I like what I like to do with the Redigaffi is to incorporate Tuscany with one of my most elegant and very treasured product of Italy. So I would like to pair truffle because these are very earthy nose in the Merlot. Truffle with probably a beautiful, simple pasta with some mushroom, something very. With the bosco, forest, earthy, because you can see in the color, the Merlot really gives you this, this a little bit more.
With a wine like this, it'll likely be that the wine ends up being the start of the meal. Like with a Redigaffi, even if you bring the best chef in the world and put something out there that's magnificent, I mean, this wine is just the start of the night. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
I really look forward to seeing how this wine develops in the coming years. One last thing that I want to touch on. You guys have been with, and I think I already mentioned it, but this is very informal. Sure. You've been with Fernández for 20 years.
Yes,
now.
correct.
Okay, and you guys have your products here on the same level of availability as New York or other big markets.
Correct.
So you guys bet on Puerto Rico hard.
Yes, we do. And actually, in the last 4 years, since I took over the Puerto Rico market in our company, I come here very often, at least twice a year, and we visit customer, restaurant, we do events with Fernández in the venue. So it's an important market that we are investing in this territory more and more, especially in the last 4 years.
All right, well, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up the interview in Spanish. Amigos, hemos probado 3 vinos extraordinarios de inmensa calidad. Es difícil un poco decir cuál es mejor que otro. Yo creo que cada uno tiene su propia canción, su propia interpretación. Digamos, uno es jazz, otro tal vez puede ser ópera, otro puede ser tal vez salsa o cha-cha-cha o mambo. O sea, son vinos extraordinarios. Tú, Rita, también tiene un vino que a mí hace mucho tiempo me gusta, que es el Perlato del Bosco, que creo que es Sangiovese y Merlot, right?
It was Sangiovese and Merlot, and now it's almost all Sangiovese.
Almost Sangiovese. Y es un vino like $35, like 30.
Yes.
Es un vino extraordinario que también es de esta bodega, que se los recomiendo. De nuevo, hemos tomado unos vinos extraordinarios. Agradezco al Almacén del Vino, a Fernández. Hemos hecho muchas entrevistas con ellos. Esperemos que esta sea la primera de muchas más. Será hasta la próxima.
Gracias.
Gracias.